It is just a huge honor for me today to have Charles Loretto come over to my house today. I have been the hugest Cane Waters fan since day one. They're out of Dallas, Texas, and everyone knows that, in undergrad we were told that if we mastered, calculus, chemistry, physics, geometry, and trig, we'd have all the answers to the universe. And then you get out of dental school, and the first Friday you got to get on Quicken and make payroll, and you're like, why? How come 8 years of college later no one thought it would be a wise idea to learn how to make payroll? These dentists walk out of school, they seriously do not know how to reconcile their own bank statement.
Yeah.
Primitive stuff. Yet they memorize the periodic table and can figure the velocity of a rocket going to the moon and back.
That's why we're in business, brother. We've been doing this for 32 years, and so this is why we're in business, because we're in our little niche as well.
But I'm from Wichita, Kansas, so it was Highway 35 to Dallas.
Yes, that's right.
Interstate 35.
Come on south.
6 hours drive south. The first time I ever went to Dallas, I was 10 years old with my dad to see Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. My dad had Sonic drive-ins, and there was a restaurant convention, like a dental convention. And I got to sit in the front row next to my dad and listen to Ray Kroc, and I just love Dallas. I'm not a big fan of your Cowboys.
That's okay.
I only like the Arizona Cardinals, but that's the only complaint I have about Charles. Charles received a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing from University of Texas at Arlington. He joined Cane Waters and Associates in 2001 and plays a critical role in growing the firm's client base as the Director of Business Development and Marketing. He regularly speaks to dental schools and residency programs, study clubs, dental symposiums, and state and national dental meetings. As an investment advisor representative at Cane Waters Associates, Charles and his team work with prospective clients daily, initiating the relationship with Cane Waters Associates. Not only does he get to work with outstanding professionals who truly care about the outcome of the service they provide, he loves being able to help diagnose the financial support dentists need and then connect them with someone who will help them achieve their financial goals. Using his insight and experience from almost 2 decades in the dental industry, Charles founded National Dental Placements in 2005, a Cane Waters Associate affiliate company that assists doctors in buying, transitioning, and valuing of a practice. He has 2 children, Cole and Isabella. He enjoys watching them play sports in the spare time and traveling to the mountains in Colorado. Isabella, is that a Disney book? Isn't there a Disney character?
I don't know. It sounded good with Loretto. That's how we rolled with it.
Loretto? I am so embarrassed. I actually, Saturday, went and saw Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, you should be embarrassed.
Something went wrong, but it was actually.
I heard it was really good too.
It was a great movie, and it reminded me the whole time. I kept thinking of Howard Hughes because he was born in Texas.
Yeah.
And he invented that genre space before Howard Hughes. All the movies were low budget, and he was the first guy who says, "Hey, don't be afraid to spend $1 million during the Depression."
Right.
And then it ended up going to $2 million or $3 million or $4 million. And these $100 million Disney films were started by Howard Hughes.
Wow.
And what I was amazed the most about the movie, the kids and the grandkids all wanted to go see it, so I took my kids and grandkids. But what I was most amazed about the movie is how no holds barred. They had to have spent 50, 60, 70, maybe $100 million on that. It's just crazy. And I just have a lot of respect for someone who believes that. So here's my first question. Love my homies, and they're good dentists. They try hard. They're just good people. What I like the most about dentistry is all your colleagues have 8 years of college. I've spent the night in 100 dentist houses, and whenever you're in a non-dentist house, there's not one nonfiction book. It's like People magazine and silly stuff and 50 Shades of Grey. You sleep in my homie's house, they have 100 nonfiction books.
Yep.
Every one of them's well read. Every one of them's smart. Every one of them's everything. But here's what my smart homies do. You go to 7-Eleven, Circle K, Quick Trip, buy a bottle of water. Quick Trip knows that they bought this for 80 cents and they're selling it for $1 and they're going to make 20% profit, gross profit. My homies have no idea what the cost is. They'll come out of a room and the hygienist just did a clean exam of bite wings and they'll say, "Howard, I'm thinking maybe I should get another hygienist." Mm-hmm. I say, "Well, your hygienist just did a clean exam and x-rays. Did you make $9 after taxes or did you lose $12?" Mm-hmm. And he says, I don't know. It's like, well, if you don't know if you're making money on the first one, why would you want a second? In fact, most of these offices, you can go in there and do the math and tell them how many hygienists they'd have to go bankrupt. Because they're losing money. And now, they don't know the cost of their filling. They schedule an hour to do 2 MOD composites and don't even know what that costs. And then they're signed up for 8 to 12 different PPO fees. So they're getting paid, 12 different fees. And then I look at the variance of the fee, and most of these procedures, between the high and the low fee, is 100%.
Right.
It's like, dude, first of all, if your overhead was 50%, which is not, then this one you'd be breaking even. You know your overhead's not 50%, so how can you not know that you just lost money? And I tell male dentists that if you want to lose money, be a woman and go shopping. Don't do free dentistry. Don't do a gosh darn MOD composite for get paid $120 when it costs you $135. Go spend $15 at the mall.
Right.
So sorry for that rant, but I mean, do you agree with that rant or not?
Yeah, Howard. So I think one of the things that we've seen as a firm, again for 32 years, and certainly my being in the business for 16 years, is watching a dentist that will come to us, and it's not necessarily the 26-year-old that comes out that gets fortunate that starts their own practice right out of the gate, to a 50-year-old that comes to us. There's just not business training that's taught at these dental schools, and a lot of times I think majority of these dentists, if I would say there's any mistake that I would say that a lot of them make throughout their career, is not finding that specialist, which I know that you're preaching for many years of getting that dental CPA in their corner to really help them understand the business. And there's a lot of CPAs out there that do work with dentists, but I mean really to understand what those amalgams are, to understand what if they're doing the abutment, to understand if they're utilizing an E4D or a CERAC, and to understand what the hygienist is producing out of their chair, to look at even the examples of Sally that's doing $50,000 out of her chair, how much she should be producing out of that chair, and really understand just all the aspects of the direct cost, all the aspects of the fixed cost, so they can see what those incremental dollars that they're going to make from a profit standpoint. So if there's one walk away from this as a dentist, is really just get a good comprehensive plan looking at your business and just the overhead and how it's structured, so that you can really analyze if you should take on that PPO plan that pays maybe the 120 or the 180 for that particular procedure.
And by the way, on all these shows, no one pays to get on. There's no money exchanged. This is all from the heart. But I want to say that most of the elite dentists I've known for my 30-year class reunion party was last Friday night, and I graduated May 11, 87. But most of the elite guys I know are all your clients. And you know what most of the feedback has been from your clients? Not only do they rant and rave and love you to death and all that stuff, but so many of them say it saved their marriage. So many dentists were on the rocks because the dentist comes home and says, well, how'd you do today? He says, well, we did good. We did $5,000. The wife hears $5,000 thinks, well, God, why didn't I buy that Gucci purse for $1,000? I mean, it just made $5,000. And Kane Waters insisted that the husband and the wife come together.
Yeah, that's right.
And spend the whole day. And when that spouse, marriage fails because you don't communicate. They say the top 3 reasons are money, sex, and substance abuse. Yep. And it's really not money, sex, and substance abuse. It's about you can't talk about that these are problems. And when marriages go to Kane Waters, the spouse starts realizing there's a lot of overhead in this thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different. So when my husband comes home and says, I did 5 crowns today at $1,000 a piece, she's thinking, no, it wasn't $5,000 a piece. The adjusted production was $600 because there were PPOs and the overhead and the break even, and they.
Well, yeah, just to comment on that. And first of all, I didn't even say thank you. So thank you for allowing me to come to your house and do this. I mean, I really appreciate it. When the offer was first, given, hey, you want to do this interview, a lot of people, do this via Skype, and I'm like, oh no, I'm hopping on a plane. I'm going to go hang out with this guy and do this. So forgive my manners for not thanking you out of the gate.
No,
but let me address that question. Just as important, just as it is in the importance of understanding the business, I also think that the same importance is needed to understand your own personal financial needs, because many times I think that you could have, the doctor that does understand maybe the business, but sometimes it's that spouse that maybe understands the household expenses, and many times they're not the same person, Even if it is, both of them have to be on the same page. And so one of the things that I think that we've done a good job with is making sure you educate both husband and wife the importance of really four key components. And I think a lot of people really understand maybe the break even in their business. They might understand it takes $30,000 or $40,000 in their business. But where it gets really complicated is to understand that, I have to do this amount to pay the bills. But then there's this thing called taxes that we all hate. And because the money that you make in the business, now I need to go over here to the house and, I got to get stuff to run the house, from the electric bills to the mortgages to the cars to the kids' schools, etc. But when I bring that money to the house, I got to pay taxes. And so the fourth part of the equation is where people really miss it, and it's their own personal retirement plan. And so it's like, I go to work, I do as much as I can. Dentistry is such a physical, demanding, job that these dentists, as it has to go through your body. They can only do so much hygiene, only do so much procedures. Then they go over here and you're trying to be the mom, the dad, and all this stuff. And then the accountant says, hey, you owe, this much taxes. And it's like, well, I need to save for retirement, but there's just no money. And so there's a lack of plan. And so, the thing I talk about is understanding the business, understanding the personal, life and the budget, with the most important understanding between the taxes, which is a direct link and tie into the profit sharing plan, which help you prepare for retirement. So you really have to understand all four. And the lectures I give around the country, I do speeches on why you must own a business to young students and residents. I do lectures on the financial decisions that you must get right as a business owner. And I give lectures on, and not just but a team of people at Kane Waters, give lectures on practice transitions. And every single lecture that I'm speaking to a dentist, I always speak about understanding of the home, understanding of the business, understanding of the taxes, understanding the personal life, and understanding of the key to saving, for retirement. So you mentioned about, understanding what that is in the personal life, but man, those suckers are all tied together. They really are.
Well, say you live in a home. Bigger than that, you have a business, and bigger than that, you live in a country, and you're tying them all three together. By the way, we put these millennials, we put out like 350 online C courses on Dentaltown, and they're coming up now on 1 million views.
Wow!
So if you have those lectures, old school's dog and pony, travel around the country, one horse at a time. But man, you can put one of those courses on Dentaltown, and
I'll be happy to.
Yeah,
I just did one at the ASDA National Conference. Why you must own. I just put it on YouTube, so I'll definitely get that link over to you.
Well, a lot of people are saying that I've seen this rodeo before, where when I was in school in '87, the senior class had 1 woman, my class had 20. Now the dental schools are half women. Clear back then, 30 years ago, we were told that, these women, they're all just going to get married, have babies, all drop out of the workforce. They're all married dentists and all that stuff. And I saw all that to be completely false. The women in my class, those 20 women, actually, their average dental office production collection beat the males. They're still all working. Most of them have $1 million practices. So when I hear today that the millennials, again, are different, they're always going to be different. But I look back at a 2 million year old species and saying they don't change much.
Right.
And when people say that millennials they don't want to own, they want to be employees. Since when did Homo sapien want to be controlled and have someone under his thumb? They say, well, millennials will want to be soccer moms because at 5 o'clock they just want to go play with their kids. They don't want to worry about the dental office. Dude, the ultimate soccer mom is the mom who says, I'm leaving at 2.
Right.
How am I going to ask my boss?
Right.
Cancel my last 2 appointments because my kid is in the emergency room. And so I look back at 2 million year old sapiens, say they ain't going to change. So when they're saying these millennials went to school for 8 years and they just want to be employees, it's like, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Because what happened? Was there a mutation in the species and now they're all different? So...
Well, I got comments there. First of all, I think that when you look at this 80 million population of millennials, it is true that they've done a bunch of research to say that this is maybe some of these shifts and changes. They want to work in groups and maybe they don't want to take some of the same risks. But when we're talking about dentistry, we're talking about the top 1%. These ain't the kids that just mailed it in. They worked really hard. These are the 4.0s. These are the 21 DAT scores that got in. So These are some hardworking individuals. So, I do believe in maybe some of the research that's been said about millennials. I don't know that necessarily transfers over to our dentists because of how hard they had to work. Now, with that said, I do think there's a fear of God in them of right now of what to do, and it's because of the debt that they have, and it's because of many of the sponsored corporate lectures that are coming into the school and just saying, hey, you don't need to own. Let's just come work for me, and I'll handle all this. And so I'm a big proponent. I don't mind sharing my opinions about where this field is and where I think it's going to go and where it could go. I believe in ownership, and I think that if you want to be that mom and you want to be you want to leave at 3 and go pick up your kids, I got a great way how to do that. It's called ownership. You own the business. You can control the patients and even your staff when they're coming and going. And so I gave this example in a previous speech, but one of the greatest examples that I have in the benefit of ownership is in Dallas, Texas. We helped a young man buy a business, and he bought it from a female practitioner. Howard, this individual practiced approximately 30 years. Female and pediatric practice. She chose to close her office at 3 p.m. Why? Because she owned a business. Very successful pediatric dentist. And now this young man purchased the business. Of course, he's a driver and, is now extending the office, hours from, 3 to 5. And the business went from 1.3 to, approximately $2 million. I just bumped into him at a meeting. What's the point? The point is that she was in charge. She was in control of her own destiny. And so if we can get one message across to these young people today, and my goal of being here just to give them hope, they can do it. I mean, this generation of dentists of just being successful, for the last, 60, 70 years, that they're not failing. They're 199% success rate according to all these major banks. So I just think that in all these classes and all around dental schools and residency programs, they just get the fear that they can't do it. And so what I'm trying to do, and I know you've done it as well, just to give them hope that they can do it. Just surround yourself with a good team, and you're going to be wildly successful. So
finish the story. I mean, is she single? Did you bring a picture? I mean, did you give me a phone number? I want to meet this pediatric dentist.
Okay. I'll see what I can do, Howard.
Well, but should the 20,000 dental students and residents right now, should they be concerned with their debt load?
Yes. Anytime you have $300,000 to $400,000 of debt of 6+% interest rate, there should be a concern. My point is, when I'm going to visit with them, it should not be the number one concern, because when you think about dentistry, you think about it's a very physical, demanding field that we're all in. That I'm not physically doing the work, but the dentists are. And when they're coming out of school at roughly 26, and they're going to go until, let's say, mid-60s, let's say it's a 40-year career, they only have so much crowns in them. They only have so many hygiene checks in this journey. And so when you look at it from a financial standpoint, is we just can't afford to give up these 10 years to say, I think I want to, work as an associate. What I'll talk about, later is just the importance of ownership and the reasons for ownership. But the quick version is you typically make about twice as much money, as an owner. So for every year you're giving up, either you're making $100,000 as an associate or $200,000 as an owner, roughly. I've seen examples more. I've seen
and who's got more tax breaks, the employer or the owner?
Yeah, as an owner, you got great tax planning.
I know.
We know that. Yeah. We know that as an owner, we have
the whole game's rigged by the tax code. I mean, you for an owner.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Should they be fearful? But if they understand how important ownership is and the benefits of tax planning, like you mentioned, benefits of preparing for retirement, and they can just weigh that out, I would show them, mathematically, that I would not focus on the debt. I'd focus on building some cash, try to become the business owner sooner than later, typically 1 to 2 years after they're finishing dental school, or almost immediately after they're finishing the residency program.
Speaking of dental schools, you've been lecturing extensively in dental schools since 2004. I have to admit, I've been getting lazy. I've been now I Skype into their classroom.
Yes.
I love it. I just sit at my desk, Skype in. I see the whole.
I'm not as smart as you, Howard.
My God.
I'm 48, and so I got to get a little older to get that wise. So
yeah, it's just,
I don't have your street cred either.
It's just great, man.
Everyone's going to tune into Howard. Charles, I don't know about Charles, but Howard, of course, they're going to tune in to see.
But I mean, it used to be, a lot of these cities would be, it's a 5-hour plane flight from here to New York, and then stay in a hotel, then you go the next day, lecture dental students for an hour or two, then backtrack all the way home. Now you just wake up, sit at your computer, start into class. But I want to ask you this specifically. You've been doing it a lot since 2004 to 2017. Have you seen any changes in the dental school class over the last decade?
Yeah, for sure. Just even the lectures that I was giving in early 2004, I was really talking about what I thought was important, but what's really important to them, is what to do with this stat. So I really focus on that. That's the number one thing. When I interview them, I ask them, what's the number 1, 2, 3 most important things you have, and it's always the same answer, is DAT. So they're so focused on the DAT. Number 2 is passing boards. That hasn't changed.
Is what passing boards?
You're passing the boards. And number 3, what the heck that I'm going to do. But what's the major change I've seen is I get them to raise their hand and say, hey, raise your hand if you're planning to own a business straight out of dental school. Tell me you got something lined up immediately that you're planning to own in the first year. Nobody's raising their hand today. And just 10 plus years ago, I'd have a lot of hands raising. I'm planning to start a business from scratch. I've already got 3 or 4. I'm going to be buying these businesses, and it's just nobody. I mean, it's just there's many of these classes. They're all either going to work for corporate straight out of school. They're going to the military, but a lot of them just don't have private practice, deals lined up, and so it's just it's scary to me. It just really is scary that none of them really have a plan of attack, and it's just I really think it's that debt load and all those kind of fear of God lectures that they've heard that they can't do this.
Well, Dentaltown, everybody thinks of the message board, online magazine, the online C, but we have free classified ads, and I looked this morning, there's like 6,000 free classified ads, and a lot of us are looking for an associate, one to sell my practice, one to buy my practice, but the app, the next version come out, the classifieds will be on the app. So we designed our looking for a job. We copied everything we could from monsterjobs.com.
Sure.
You can put a PDF, your photo, resume, but I always think that my homies who have 168 hours in a week, their dental office is closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They don't even know how many incoming calls. They could be hiring these whole senior classes. They wouldn't have to go to Heartland and Pacific and Aspen if these guys would sit there and get data phone systems to realize, God, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we get 18 incoming calls, and half of them aren't even patient records.
Right. And
I could hire this young kid out of school to come to my office and work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with one assistant. So hopefully we'll do that. But do you so corporate dentistry is in there telling them that they have too much student loans, that they're growing at 12 to 18% annual rates. Do you think the corporate dentistry model will continue to grow at 12 to 18%? Because I got a couple of really big concerns. I'm 50. I'm 54. I'll be 55 August 29th. And when I came out of school 30 years ago, Orthodontic Centers of America was rolling them up and was the only one who made it to the New York Stock Exchange with $1 billion valuation. And what happened? The same thing. They couldn't keep their doctors. When they bought a practice and they said, you got to stay here for 2 years. At 2 years and 1 nanosecond, they walked, they hated it, they had nothing good to say. They replaced it with these kid orthodontists who came in there and said, I don't, this doesn't sit well with me.
Right.
There were 12 on NASDAQ, they're all gone. So then they all disappeared for a decade, and now they're all back.
Right.
Well, let's look at they're all back. Not one of them is traded on NASDAQ. Not one of them's on the New York Stock Exchange. Not one of them could be publicly traded. They always think linearly, like we went from this much to this much, so 10 more years, we'll double that. Well, 54 years, you see there's no linear thing. It's a pendulum. It just, real estate prices go up, they come down, stocks go up and come down. The fact that they've been going like that for 10 years is more convincing to me that that's not the way they'll go the next 10 years, because I don't see, when I'm on Dentaltown, it goes back to the Reader's Digest studies, which was 25 years ago. They got, I think it was Joel Eichelman's one of their journalists, and he got a study models and X-rays and went to 30 different dentists and got 30 different treatment plans.
Yeah, right.
So then the government, I think it was the NIDR, looked at that and said, "Was that really for real?" So they extended it to 100. And they only got 2 treatment plans
Right.
were the same, and those are the 2 who said he needed nothing. And then treatment plan 3 to 100 was all different. I look on Dentaltown, these dentists, you can't get them to agree on amalgam versus composite. You can't get them to agree on anything. So when they go to corporate and someone says, "This is how we do it," well, they're still a monkey. They're a Homo sapien, and they're like, "I don't agree." And the more you tell me that I got to do fluoride treatments after every cleaning and charge out of network, or the more you tell a doctor what they have, it's like herding cats. And you look at all the biggest employee companies like the military or Walmart, they're all younger, uneducated people. But when every one of your employees is a dentist, a physician, or a lawyer, are you kidding me? You can't manage them. So so specifically, I'm ranting. I should shut the hell up. So my question to you is, what influence does corporate dentistry have on these students? Do you think that corporate dentistry will continue to grow at the 12 to 18% annual growth rates that many of them project they will?
So, a quick comment. And one of the reasons I really love the business that we're in, we have over 130 employees at Kane Waters, is in dentistry. You're right. You give these 30 patients together, and then you got 30 dentists, or the one patient, the 30 dentists. Everyone's got a different treatment plan. The thing I absolutely love about my field is you took the tax deduction or you didn't. So you can measure. So there's only one treatment plan in this case in our field. Either you took the deduction or you didn't. So it's a really measurable event. So if I was to look at 30 dentists' tax returns, you could see that they did the right thing or the wrong. That's what I love about my business, because it's not a right, a wrong, and sitting there arguing. It's like, well, you kind of win the case, right? So that's the great thing I love about what we do in our field, is just being able to measure it. Is corporate dentistry going to be here? Here's my thoughts on the numbers. And when you go back to think about that career of 26 to 66, so it's got this 40 years. Do I think there's a place for corporate? Corporate tells us, and maybe you can jump in if you have a different number, but it's somewhere around 23, 24, 25% of the field is what many of them say that the industry is at. Have you heard anything different than that? Is that about what you hear as well?
I've gone to their meetings. I've lectured for their meetings, things like that. What I just keep coming back to is they can't keep their associates. The conversation, none of them want to get out into the world.
That's right.
One of the taboo, the Chardes, the sweetest taboo is they can't keep their associates.
Right.
So if they can't keep their associates, and you sell dentistry, and you can't keep your damn dentist.
Yeah.
I mean, I get mad at dentists when they can't keep their hygienist and their assistant and their receptionist.
Right.
I can't come in for a cleaning every 6 months and see different staff.
Right.
And then trust you.
Right.
So if they can't keep their associates, how the hell are they going to keep their business?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. So I think that when they're coming out with this much debt, they're nervous. So they're definitely those first couple of years, going to corporate. So when you think about that 40-year career, is there a spot? Absolutely. And if let's just say they have 25% of the market. Well, then that means of the 40 years, they got about those 10 years in there. And so where do I see those 10 years? Pretty much in the first 3, 4, 5 years of the dentist's life. So that's where you get the young ones. And then they figure it out and they go, I'm tired of being told what to do. I got my friends making twice as much. I got better tax planning. It's an okay deal, but there's got to be a better deal. So they figure it out. So then they get out of that model and eventually get to the ownership. Maybe they start a practice and they eventually go. And I think there's a spot too for the older guy at the end. They sold the practice. Maybe they sold it too soon. The young guy or young gal kicked them out, and now they don't have a place. And then they're going to go back and work corporate. So I think there's maybe a 5-year spot on the back end, maybe a 5-year spot on the front end. And if we all worked 40 years, that's somewhere around 25%. Maybe it's a little less. That's where I think that it's at. So if I was corporate, I would just be nervous about them being able to tackle what you just said, is how are you going to keep these young people? And especially if we got people like ourselves that are talking about the benefits of ownership, and so they can really see the other side of the equation. eventually they will make some of the right choices.
I think what corporate's doing better is that they got better locations, they got better marketing,
100%.
they got better advertising, they got
100%.
they got all kinds of better things. And I think
do.
what they're doing best is they pay these kids just enough money to kill their dreams.
Absolutely.
If they paid them just a little less, they'd say, I'm not gonna kill my dreams for that. But they pay them just enough to kill their dreams.
They're genius.
Yeah.
Okay, these are some of the smartest people, in business, and so they see this opportunity in dentistry, and they got it perfect. It's a science. Before, what they were doing is they're coming buying a lot of these practices. They don't have to buy them anymore. They look at the demographics. They figure out there's a 5,001 population. They figure out here's this amount of income. Maybe they're going to set up a Medicaid practice. They can see whatever it is. They got it figured out to science. They put it there. They got the recruiting tools to bring these young people in, and just like I said, know exactly how much to pay them. Hook them in with a couple of year contract, maybe even give them an incentive to pay back some of their student loans, and it's just like things get good. And so they got it, and they're genius at the marketing. But what I always tell the young people is just to try to give them hope. Corporate dentistry stole every good idea from the previous generation. And so there's nothing that says that you can't do the same thing.
The founder of Heartland, Rick Workman, on my podcast, said he got the idea from it listening to me at Destin, Florida, and he still had his notes about signage and external marketing. And So
but you know what happened? You stole it from someone else, and someone stole it. You that's what a consultant is. You interview all these people, in this case, maybe all these dentists, and you get great ideas, and you're sharing it with others.
I just want to make a couple of rants. At 54, the best idea I ever made was Eric, Greg, Ryan, and Zach. I knocked out 4 boys in 60 months, and now I just had my second grandchild born last week, Gunnar Eugene Farran, and there's no good time to have a kid.
No.
And there's no good time to start your own business or have a kid. So the younger and dumber you are and oblivious to the fear, because we know when they open up their own dental office, their bankruptcy rate, their failure rate is not even 0.5%.
Exactly.
And that 0.5% is always because you lost your license.
Right.
Tell me why you lost your license. Cocaine, Vicodin,
didn't pay payroll taxes, didn't pay federal taxes.
So if you don't have a substance abuse problem and you're not breaking law, if the board's not going to take your license away, and the longer you sit down and think, should I have a kid? It's a really bad idea. It's really expensive. You're not going to sleep for 10 years.
Suckers are a lot of work.
You're going to sleep with your bedroom door open, half asleep, wondering if they made it back at night. I mean, it's the hardest decision you'll ever love.
Hardest job on the planet,
so just do it before you think about it. Because if you're going to think about having a kid between 20 and 30, by the time you get 30, you're going to think, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Same thing with owning a business.
Yeah.
When you come out of school, what better time to be thrown into the deep end of a swimming pool and open your own business? You say, well, I don't know if I know enough marketing. Yeah, well, if it's Friday night and you have no patience on Monday and Tuesday, I bet you'll be motivated to learn about marketing all Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I bet you'll be on Dentaltown for 20 freaking hours and you'll have it figured out by Monday. But if you don't have that sync, so I just say dive in head first. And then I want to make one thing about the retirement. Everybody always talks about the retirement planning. I do all that. I do everything you guys say and all that. But that's just for my worst case scenario. But I have to tell you, 30 years in this game, the happiest dentist I've ever met in my life, my next door neighbor who motivated me to be a dentist, Kenny Anderson. He just celebrated his 50th anniversary in his dental offices. I was lecturing in LA, and this little 5 foot 92-year-old Jewish dentist who thinks he's the only living survivor of Auschwitz in Poland, just bought a $140,000 CBCT, is placing like 2 implants a week. He was telling me he was having more fun at 92, and that's why everybody gets my advice mixed up, because they'll say, well, for a business decision, should I buy a CAD cam and an oral scanner and a laser and all this stuff? And I say, well, for business, no. But if that's what makes you run 20 red lights on the way to work and you can't wait to get to work and play with your laser and your CAD cam or what so if it's going to make you happy and healthy, because I think the most expensive thing a dentist ever does is burns out and retires. So they say, well, I hate molar endo. Well, if you keep doing things you hate for money,
Right.
you end up getting burnout, disease, depression, alcoholism, drugs, whatever. So there's 4,000 endodontists. If you truly hate endo, you can't afford to do endo because I don't want you to burn out, quit, end up in the Betty Ford Center. I'd rather you celebrate your 50th anniversary saying, I just love dentistry.
Yeah.
And also as you get older, you talked about your body where you only got so many, it's a physical deal.
Definitely.
But I also see the older people switching from blood and guts surgery, implants, sinus lifts, root canals, to the soft and fluffy stuff, cleanings, Invisalign, sleep apnea.
Right.
So you can switch from, being a bloody barbarian, which I still love. I'd rather pull 4 wisdom teeth than play golf, to all the little pink, fluffy,
I'm out.
white stuff, Invisalign.
Let me comment real quick on that. I think in being in the business, again, for 16 years and watching all dentists from all ages, I see that. And I love what I do. I don't. Someone once said, if you're looking at, Monday through Friday is your work week and your weekend is Saturday and Sunday, you're in the wrong business. I mean, every day it's a fun day for me. It's just I just enjoy what I do. And I think for a dentist, if you get to a point in your career and you do want to do the sleep apnea, you do want to do the Invisalign cases, whatever it is that you want to do, the greatest thing you can do to achieve that is to grow the business, make it very successful, be a great marketer, bring lots of patients in. Of those 3,000 active patients on a $1.5 million, $1.7 million practice, we're talking a busy practice here, you have brought the associate, maybe even a partner in, and you pull the dentistry that you want to do out of those cases, and you put them over to your chairs, and you get a young man or woman, and you bring them in, and guess what they're doing? The stuff you don't want to do. And we've done this for 30-something years and created partnerships. And so the greatest thing about partnerships is not just sharing the fixed costs where we make more money. It's what corporate's got figured out. Grow these businesses, you make a lot of money, but also the ability to really control that established doctor's schedule, number of days they're working, and the procedures they're doing to really help them with their career and really push those years out, so you're not just like, I can't wait to retire, until I'm 50 or 55 or something like that. It's crazy. What are you going to do the next 40 years? You need to do something you love.
I also want to make one complaint on your dental school lectures. You're targeting juniors and seniors.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I'll speak to who anyone shows up.
But who is the most of your class? Is it D1, 2,
so
3,
the
or 4?
D4s, most of them are, more focused on clinical at this point. They're not coming to lunch and learn. They've heard enough lunch and learns that are hopefully, maybe crap, and they just didn't want to listen to them, and so they're not going to come here. This Charles guy that shows up. So anywhere between the D2s and D4s, but most of the students that are in the room are probably D2s and D3s.
And when I look at these $350,000 student loans, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of this was going on cruises in the Caribbean. I look at their cars. I'm like, okay, your dad and mom worked for 40 years, and they have a 14-year-old car.
Yeah.
You're a dumbass dental student, and you're driving a BMW.
Yeah.
And you flew all the way to Miami on spring break. And someone I look at the $350,000 student loans was, well, if I went into every high school graduation class and gave every graduating high school senior a credit card with a $350,000 line of credit,
yeah,
and they're 18 years old, what percent of those American high school graduates would max out that card?
A good number of them.
they would go. So the reason they have so much debt is because they were given a line of credit. And when you're 24 and you drive a nicer car than your mom and dad, they'll buy their first home, and I can take their parents' home square footage and their grandparents' square footage on both sides of their mom and dad, combine both 3 houses into one. It's like, and you have a bigger house than that? I mean, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
And they eat, the data on college students is they eat out 19 and 31 meals.
Yeah.
So I wish you would start at D1 first day and say, hey, dumbass, just because you got a $350,000 line of credit on your Visa card, what you need to do is not use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they, I didn't have a car till senior year of dental school. Me and George Rory lived 8 blocks from dental school, and there were 5 of us dental students in one house. so our rent was only $100 a piece. We walked 8 blocks to school. We even on the way back, there was a government welfare place that would hand out blocks of cheese and boxes of rice-a-roni and ramen noodles to low-income people, and we told them we were dental students. They said, you qualify.
Right.
I mean, we
make
just
no money.
And they go to bars and pay $7 for a drink with an umbrella in it. We would buy a case of Wiedemann, and the whole case was like $2. And everybody said it was the worst beer in Kansas City.
Yeah.
We loved it because number one, it was like $2 a case.
Right.
And I just see their spending as completely insane.
You definitely see a range, because I'll ask, in class, just walking around before I start the lecture, like, do you mind me asking, $250, $300, $325, and so you'll see they're sitting next to each other. So how is it that one is at $250 in debt and some are at $400 in debt? Now, some are out of state, and so that their tuition is higher. Some are in a private school like the two here in Phoenix. They're expensive, so for the most part they're lending about $90,000, a year. So it is a big number, and some schools are more. Some cost of living is less in certain areas. I think Mississippi is one of the lowest costs to get through dental school, and they're only, I think the class I spoke to was maybe about $175,000. So again, it does kind of depend on where you are in the country and out of state thing, but I do agree with you that some tend to spend a little bit more than what they should.
I when I'm in those dental schools, I mean you walk, and it's the same thing in the government school system. Like, you go to any school system in public school system in Phoenix, Arizona, and where all the teachers are, it's all okay. Like my car's a 2004 and it's 2017. You see a lot of 2000 to 2010 cars, know, and then you go to the school. What's the bureaucracy level? The regional
ASDA?
No. I mean the public school, the bureaucracy.
Okay.
Where they manage the schools. So for like every 10 or 15 schools, there's a government building where all the people manage all the public schools.
Okay.
And it's all $60,000, $70,000, $90,000 cars.
Right.
And they don't teach one student in this building. And you're looking at things. You know how you could cut costs in education? Get rid of all this layer of management. Yeah. And if they say that they need more teachers, everybody in this building should be a teacher. It's just government and healthcare tend to spend too much. I wrote down 10 questions for you. Why do you think that corporate has been successful in the last 10 years?
Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but they understand the business of marketing, and so the key is just getting, the 50, 60, even 100 new patients a month, in the door. So they've done just an excellent job doing that. They have systems in place. They understand the layout, the physical locations. They don't build some 7,000, 10,000 square foot facilities. They put them in retail shops just like the rest of the country. They 2,500 square foot locations, 6, 7 operatories. They've really maximized the space. They don't put brand new $150,000 CBT machines out of the gate. They got it. They figure it out, and so the walk away from there is be able to walk in those facilities, be able to work in those facilities, and figure out the systems they put in place and repeat it. So in short, they're an excellent marketing machine.
And another thing that I'm actually proud of them about is the oldest corporate dental chain in America. You know what it is? The oldest one, the first one?
No.
Affordable Dentures.
Okay.
And why were they genius? Because everyone wants to go to the hoity-toity and do full mouth implants and rehab on rich people. And these guys sit there and say, doctors really don't focus on the poor.
Right.
And they said, we're going to go focus on the low end of the market. Right. And they're the biggest. And then of all the corporate dentist chains, I think Aspen is actually the smartest. They're always targeting the poor areas on Medicaid and Medicare. Mm-hmm. Because they know, like in Phoenix, every dentist wants to go to Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. Well, that ain't where Aspen's going.
Right.
And the same thing to these people. If you're really concerned about $350,000 in debt, every dentist that I've ever seen in the last 10 years that walked out of school, first year did $1 million and took home $350,000. They went rural. They were 2 hours away from a major airport. Mm-hmm. They went to a town of 1,800 to 3,000 were the only dentists in shop, so they didn't have to sign up for 12 different PPO plans. They charge $1,000 for a crown. In all the big cities, you have to adjust off $400 for the PPO price.
Correct.
In that town at 1,800, there ain't no adjustment.
Yeah, so I'm with it. By having 1,700 clients, you get to see the ones.
You guys have 1,700 clients.
1,700 dentists. Yeah,
God, that is amazing.
We've started with 32 years ago, and
With Daryl. Daryl Kane. Yeah,
it's really just grown from there. So
you have so much data. You should just talk about lessons learned from data, because a lot of these homies might think, "Well, I don't agree with you." Science doesn't care if you agree with them or not.
Yeah,
religion is something you believe in. Science doesn't care if you believe in it. I mean, you got data on 1,700 people. What could you tell these people answering that question, rural, urban?
Yeah, so just to give you some of the data, and even on our website, it's got a "How does your practice compare" report. So we like to compare practices.
Okay, so tell them your website number.
So just canewaters.com, and just on our homepage, when you scroll down, there's a link, and you can get the "How does your practice compare" report. And it's pretty cool because you can really benchmark some of your fixed costs and direct costs against other practices. I think our average GP practice does about $1.3 million. So Howard, our average general dentistry practice does just under $1 million.
I know. I've told them this lesson on the story several times.
About $500,000 in net income out of there. So it's
the average dentist does $675 and takes home $145, and then you talk to consultants. And they said, our average dentist is $1 million. It's like, do you hear that? You're always trying to learn how to place implants. What does your average client do?
So the average general dentist, one doctor, does just under $1.3 million as of like 2015 numbers.
So that's double the average.
We're just about ready to have our 2016 report out, and so, but yeah, they're making just under $500,000 on average.
So what is that? 470? What?
I think that's the number there.
Yeah, just
quote me.
But so again, when you go buy your CAD CAM machine, when you go buy your laser, when you go buy all your whatever, is the average guy doing that going to do $1.3 million gross and take home $500,000? I've told you 1,000,000 times, the greatest return on any investment in all of dentistry is a dental consultant. And
we love consultants. I've seen you interview many of them that we use and recommend. So we're definitely big proponents of bringing the consultants in, and people can help with marketing and better case presentations, and good architects and good dental supply companies and equipment companies to help you lay it out. So we don't perceive ourselves as experts in any area, but we do like to surround ourselves with really good, talented people that we can kind of push to. But I think people in rural areas tend to make more, and we tend to see that they do make more, and it's because of a lot less competition. Obviously, fixed costs, meaning our buildings or rents, things like that, are going to be much less. Even our direct cost employees, typically would get to pay those people less, and so certainly you can make a strong case for the rural area being much more profitable.
Well, you go into San Francisco, and a lot of these people want $35 an hour.
Right.
Hygienists want $50 to $75 an hour. You go into Walmart America, and a $10 an hour job is just
right.
That's the cat's meow.
Right. The thing, even when we talk about California, just because it's obviously, I know you traveled the world, but it's such a beautiful place, and so it's not just something I perceive as beautiful and great, and the weather just makes you feel wonderful. But everyone feels the same, and so there's so many dentists that are there as well, and it just creates so much competition. And so it's that competition that they're fighting over those patients that I think just makes me crazy.
So
sometimes.
Are you not on Twitter?
No, can you believe that?
You got to tell them to get on Twitter. I got 20,000 Twitter followers.
I'll be a Twitter.
I was going to retweet. I like telling my homies, dentists like Twitters because it's just headlines. It's just
right.
you just headlines telling. Whereas Facebook's a lot of noise.
Right.
And I think I actually think the dentist on Dentaltown, Twitter, and LinkedIn are a cut above the ones. It seems like the ones on Facebook, like they'll all be talking about United Airlines today.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's always
everybody's got an opinion about that.
Or the presidential election.
Right.
And that was another thing I noticed in the presidential election. I looked at all those friends of mine who spent all those hours on the election on Facebook talking about all that crap. And when the election was over, did any of them know their overhead? Did any of them know their cost?
Mm-hmm.
Did any of them know anything? They're always so ready to solve the world's problems.
Right.
But I say, look at that man in the mirror. You know, you have an opinion for North Korea and Trump and Putin.
Right.
But you can't answer any questions at the man in the mirror. It's just noise. It's just misdirected resources.
I get tickled and excited when I ask someone. I said, "Well, tell me about your practice," and they tell me, "Charles, I have a $1.2 million practice. It's a 55% overhead. My cost is this. You know, typically my quarterly estimates as far as my taxes are, you know, about $20,000 a quarter. I pay myself $250,000. I run a lot of things through my business. I'm saving $80,000 in the pension plan." I mean, when I meet people like that, I give them a hug. I mean, they're like, we're fist bumping. I'm like, you rock, you know, because it's exciting when someone really gets it, you know.
And they're happier too.
Oh yeah, and they're confident. It's they want to share it with you. They're almost bragging about it.
Yeah, and that's when, if you want to go buy a toy, if you want to fly to Dominican Republic and place implants, do it. If you want to buy a CAD cam, a refrigerator, remodel your office, paint it pink, do it. When get your house in order, get profitable, get your business profitable, poised for growth, get rich, and then boys have toys. I mean, when I've bought a lot of stupid dental equipment, I've said to myself, yeah, but you know what? I could have just bought a boat. I could have bought a jet ski.
Right.
So I'm going to buy this stupid toy just because boys like toys.
Dentists love to buy shiny stuff. It's the funniest thing. I mean, I tell them, you know, our fees. Like, how much is your fee? It's like, well, we charge $9,750 for a con. That's the most crazy fee, you know, this and that. But they will run off and buy a $150,000 shiny piece of equipment because it's going to grow their business. Now it may,
it's the only industry like if you would never be sitting at a table with 5 physicians and they'd say, well, I'm a better physician than you because I bought this MRI machine or this ultrasound or whatever. I mean,
never thought of it like
physicians never have that comment.
Right.
If you sat around with 10 lawyers done and say, well, you know, I'm a better lawyer than you because I bought a $1 million IBM mainframe and I crunch. It's only a dentist thing. It's some dentist weird thing that my toys are bigger than your toys, so I'm a better doctor than you.
Yeah.
And physicians and lawyers don't think like that. But I wish I want to pull you in specific. She's working for Heartland, Pacific, Aspen, and she's sitting there thinking, I want to bust a move. I want to own a practice. What would her first move be? How could you help her? What should she be thinking?
Okay, you want me to talk to a female dentist that's been working at corporate for a couple of years who's thinking about ownership. What would I tell that young woman?
Yeah.
Can I also add the men in there as well, just so I don't leave them out? But
No, you know why you can't?
Because you're Howard. I need to listen to you.
Because if you call a dentist a man, you'll get 10 emails. Hey, why do you always call dentists a man? You call every dentist a woman for the rest of your life. Not one man will ever say, hey, why are you referring to all dentists? So just refer to all dentists as females. You get no complaints from the guys and the women. You know,
So, dear female dentist that's working at some major corporation, maybe working 3-4 days a week, making, let's just say, $120,000, $130,000 at corporate. My challenge to you, or I would say differently, the opportunity that is for you to start looking at the doctor production you're doing at work. Because what's happening is for you to generate this $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 income, you have to go to work. And in this example, if you do $50,000 of dentistry times 12, you're doing $600,000, and you're probably getting paid around 25% of what you're making. And so all of a sudden now you're making $150,000 off the clinical dentistry you're doing, and that's a great salary and a great income. The opportunity though is that if you were to work in private practice, you take the same $50,000 and you now incorporate the hygiene that you would have checked, which is now approximately $20,000 of hygiene. You would have been in a practice doing $840,000. So the question that you would have to ask yourself, or the question that I would ask you, Howard, is what is 40% on your calculator times 840,000 of collections? The answer is somewhere around $350,000. And when you look at if you went to work as an associate, you made 150, and now all of a sudden you're making a little bit more than twice as much. Is that the number?
Mm-hmm.
So you make twice as much money, and you're doing the same work. And I always say you're at risk. When you work for somebody else, you're at risk. They could terminate you tomorrow. Somebody could easily, if you're working out of 2 chairs, they could bring another person in and put them right next to you. Now all of a sudden the same $50,000 that's being done in that office is now going to be shared by the 2 of you. And so you're completely at risk in this game. The only way I know to control or to mitigate that risk, is by owning your business. So you're going to make twice as much money right there. Now all of a sudden the $300,000+ you're making, you can start tax planning on. I talked about opportunity to start saving for retirement. You'd be able to save almost $70,000 a year for retirement. So great tax planning, great pension planning, and you build equity in your business. If you got an $850,000 business that you're running, people forget, like, what's that worth? The typical evaluation of a business is roughly about 70-75% of collections. So it's another $600,000 of equity that you have. So there's all these reasons. So to me, it's a no-brainer, and I think it's also to spin it around. If you're corporate, it's a no-brainer to hire you. It's a no-brainer for them to run the $800 million practice. It's a no-brainer for them to pay you 25% of the doctor. It's a no-brainer for them to make 50 cents, 45 cents in the dollar on the overall practice, pay you roughly $150,000 to $200,000, and take home 20%. Those are great margins for corporate or some type of outside investor, and that's why they're here, because they see the opportunity. They're taking advantage of these young people because of the lack of education that is in our schools and just in dentistry, as a whole, at state meetings and national meetings. And so, I don't know if you can feel my blood pressure going on here, but it's kind of climbed up here, and it's just because I just get so emotional about this, because I see it right there in front of them. And like I said earlier, they just need hope. Hope that they can do it.
What resource? Do you have a list of practices ready to buy? Do they need to find that first, then call you? Where do you come in on the process?
Yeah. So the thing is, Howard, it's not complicated. Many of them they have this look of just like, I don't know what to do, and I tell them, look, market yourself. Create a great, CV. It's got a picture of you and your spouse and the dog and maybe the kid, and a good cover letter. And this is going to go mailed out to 200 dentists in your area. We're here in Phoenix. If you were going to go back to Gilbert, Arizona, and there are 100 dentists in Gilbert, every single one would get it. Every Shine, Patterson.
There's 100 dentists in Gilbert, and 112 are Mormon.
So I'd market to all 100 of them.
Yeah.
I'd market to all 100 of them.
Tell them your LDS. Just write that on the chart.
I'd market to all 100 of them and make sure that I got the chance to show up in their office. I would talk to all the Patterson, the Shines, the Benco rep. We'll shake hands. Call every single broker. Put it on a recall system where you're just putting yourself out there.
See, I do
it. Market.
I did it the opposite of that.
Okay.
I did it the opposite. In every industry, the whole value chain works together. Like, my dad had 9 Sonic drive-ins, so when we went on vacation, we went with the guy who sold us $1 million a meat a year. Mm-hmm. But in dentistry, they're very mean to Patterson and Shine and Berger. They treat them like second-class citizens. Mm-hmm. And the insurance companies, it's like the Palestinians and the Israelis. They won't even walk in the same room. Mm-hmm. I think, like Rick Workman, he went to Connecticut General, Delta Dental, said, where do you sell insurance for the whole state of Illinois? And you have people calling up and saying, well, there ain't any dentist here that takes my insurance. And he gave him a list of 10 towns that didn't even have a dentist. I like to go into Patterson, Shine, Benco, and Burkhart and say, where are all your dentists who are in the over 30, over 60, over 90s, account receivables not paying their bills? And they say, oh, those are all in North Scottsdale. And you say, well, where's the people that are adding operatories and chairs? Oh, they're out in rural Maricopa, and they're out in Florence. So you can go to your value chain. You can go see, there's 19 different Delta Dentals. You can go walk in there and say, hey, if you were me, 350, supply and demand, where are they demanding dentists to take Delta Dental insurance? And they'll give you a list of towns. Iowa has a list of 10 towns that if the dentist goes there, the state of Iowa will give you a $100,000 check, and Delta Dental will match it. So now you got $200,000. You had $350,000 student loans. Now you just lost two. Then the mayor walks you down and says, "We have 6 empty buildings on First Street in Maine. You want one?" And then you go pick a 6,000 square foot building. Now you don't have rent or mortgage, and now everybody in that town thinks a $10 an hour job is the bee's knees. I mean.
But Howard, here's the thing, though. The problem is it takes two people to tango, and so you have doctor and you got spouse, and so you might get the doctor on board that wants to go to rural Iowa that sees that, because from a financial standpoint, yes.
So you're right. You should get divorced first, and then go to rural
It's not
Iowa.
good for your financial planning. This guy never said that. Never.
But again, what if she wanted to talk to you, or she wanted to talk to Kane? How does that work?
Several years ago, we started a service to help the young people buy businesses. And so it's a subsidiary of Kane Waters. It's called National Dental Placements, and it represents buyers. So we do the buyer representation. We'll spend, let's say, 1 or 2 hours with you at no cost or any obligation just to look at the business. And so on the site, it talks about gathering your tax returns and profit and loss statements and maybe the balance sheet and really to help them
I'm trying to
understand.
find out on your app.
So you would just go to the National Dental Placements website. So just
it's not on the
it's just separate entities, same exact owners.
Do you think there should be a link to it on your?
There probably should be, and I'll make some notes here as far as all my to-dos here, Howard. So
I would link to it. So what's that website called?
So that one is nationaldentalplacements.com. And so on the National Dental Placements website, it has basically 4 services, and one of those is our buyer representation. So it's been a great tool to really help young people analyze their business that they're going to purchase, and it's a great service just to motivate them to own. And then obviously, if we can get them to ownership, then that's one of our goals that we have as a firm.
So more specifically, I'm still not sure what National Dental Placements is. She went to nationaldentalplacements.com.
Yep.
She's going to contact you, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah. So at first, I'd have a phone conversation with her and say, "Well, tell me about what your situation is." "Well, I'm working here at corporate." "Okay, great. And do you have any practices that you're considering?" "Yes, I do." "Yeah, I've been talking to whatever AFCO or this other company. And so now I have all this information. I got the tax returns and the profit and loss statements, and I just don't know if I should buy this thing or not. Would you be happy to look at it?" And we will. We'll spend a couple of hours with them without any cost. The main thing I'm looking for is high level, does this thing make sense? Is this some 700 collection practice? Does it net maybe 300,000? What's the cost? 500,000? Well, that's a good ratio. It's about, approximately 70% of collections. Does it make good money? Yeah, it's got a good overhead. Do you like the area? Yes, I do. Is this good for your spouse? Yes, it is. Can you do the dentistry? Is this the same dentistry you've been doing at corporate, or you've been working on Medicaid kids and this is all of a sudden a high-end restorative practice? I'm probably a little nervous, but if it's Crown and Bridge over here, Crown and Bridge over here, you can do the work. Over here you're making $150, now you're making $300 at this office. Better tax planning, better pension planning. The doctor's going to stay on for a little bit. There's a building that we can purchase. I start just to see, does this thing make sense from a financial standpoint? If it does, then we're encouraging these young people, most importantly, working in their corner to represent them so they buy the right thing. There's just so many, Howard, there's so many areas where they can, I don't want to say be taken advantage of, but just miss the boat on. They could maybe purchase it in a stock sale where they should have purchased on an asset sale. Maybe they purchased a practice and it was great, but the senior doctor said, "I'm going to hold on to the building," and basically overcharge them in rent for the next 10 years. They needed someone to represent them to negotiate.
That's my idea.
You need to negotiate that deal. You need to, how long it's going to take to buy in. How does that work? Does he or she work back for you? You can't do the procedures in the practice? Then let's keep him or her in the practice back on. So just lots of details. So are you guys,
and a couple clarities, they do all the specials too, so this isn't just general dentist, you do orthodontics.
No, of course. Almost 300 orthodontists Kane Waters works with, so it's a 250 something that we work with. So it's orthos and pedos
Now,
are
are you listing the practices? I mean, are you brokering and
yeah? So
brokering the practice?
it's a full service. It depends on where the practice is, where we're brokering.
And do you list all those practices on this website, nationaldentalplacements.com?
Yes, it's a good tool there as well.
The best free marketing you get is to list them on the Dentaltown classified ads.
in.
I have some like many of these brokers send me fruitcakes and all this stuff because they're saying I'm listing these for free and it's crushing it. I think we're getting and like I said, the next version of the app will have that on there, but I think that the classifieds are getting something like 1,200 unique dentists a day.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because the problem with the local ads, like say you're in Arizona and you list it in the Arizona magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I'm in the Navy,
right? And
or maybe I'm married in Minnesota, and we're thinking about going.
It's cold.
So with an internet display that doesn't care where you're from,
right?
And there's also practices for sale, all around the world. And
that's right.
I saw one dentist. It was so fun. I was lecturing in Singapore, and I saw the one dentist that looked like they were from Ireland, like me, and I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "You know what? I just got bored. Kids were gone, single, divorced, and I just thought, you know what? I just want to practice in Asia, in Singapore, and then spend the next 10 years traveling to Japan, the Great Wall of China." I mean, she said, "I lived in one continent for 50 years. Now I want to move to Asia for a continent." So she bought a practice in Singapore, which is an interesting thing in Singapore. All you do in Singapore to get a license is you got to find someone that you can convince to hire you. So let's say you're a Singaporean dentist, you hire me, and then I have to work under you for a year, and then after a year you have to sign a deal that says, yeah, he's good enough to have his own. Awesome. So she got a job. She found out Dentaltown for 1 year, and then she bought a practice. But I know how my homies think. So she's driving to work and she's thinking, well, this is stupid because no one's going to give me a loan because I have $342,000 in debt, and I got to get this paid down to at least $100, or do I need to pay it all off? No one's going to give me a loan.
Howard, that thing could be further from the truth. These banks absolutely love you. I mean, just like you said earlier, the banks, according to them, have this 99% success rate. So the failure rate is less than 1%. What I will tell you is, you come out of school, your critical path is to get clinical experience. Primarily, if you're planning on working on adult dentistry for the rest of your life, is get clinical adult dentistry. And then number one is not to pay down your debt; it's to build some cash. Because these banks, before they lend you the $300,000, $500,000, $1 million, we have a loan right now that's going to close here in the next 30 days. $3 million they're going to lend to one dentist. $3 million.
What are they buying?
They're buying an orthodontic practice that nets something like 60 cents on the dollar, and it's like close to $4 million practice. But in this example,
is it rural?
He's doing the work. No, major city.
Major city. Huh.
Yeah. So they're going to lend you the money. They will lend you the money.
I don't understand about their logic. So, OPM, other people's money. To borrow other people's money to buy a house or a car or a jet ski or a boat, that's a waste of money. When you say a house is a good investment, I don't believe in it, because houses usually rent for 85% of the price of the mortgage payment. And if one guy rented their home for 30 years and took the 15% difference and saved it, they'd have more money than the guy who owned the home. The only thing a home really works well at is it's a forced savings account, because that guy, if he rented, wouldn't save the difference. They wouldn't have the discipline. But what I don't understand is this. Using other people's money to go to dental school obviously was a wise decision, because you're a wise person. You knew that it wasn't smart to work at McDonald's for $10 an hour for 10 years to save up and go to dental school. You didn't ever think that one time. You said, I'll borrow other people's money. And you can complain about student loans, but remember, there's 220 countries. You only have access to other people's money for student loans in 20 of those countries. This isn't a problem in the Congo and Somalia and Nigeria, okay? So number one, you're spoiled. You got other people's money. You become a doctor. Now you're $300,000 in debt. Well, when you walk $300,000 down the rabbit hole, you got to keep going to the million and buy a practice. You can't use $350,000 of other people's money and then say, well, now I'm going to be another person's employee for 10 years. I mean, you came a third of the way. Go the remaining 2/3 of the way. Don't walk 1/3 down the street and stop and turn around and stand there for a decade.
Let me give you the math. So let's just say you're $300,000 in debt and it's at 6%. That math is 18% interest. So which is greater? $18,000 of interest, or I go to work, I do $50,000 of clinical dentistry, and I make $150,000. Or if I own, I make $300,000. There's a $150,000 potential difference of income, potential difference. So 150, 140, 130 versus 18. To me, it's a no-brainer. And so the goal is to come out, build this cash so you can buy the business. Now that you make twice as much, now if you choose to pay down your debt, go for it. I mean, we get to borrow at these really low interest rates at 3-4%, and it's an interest that we get to deduct as well, at potentially at a 30, 35, 40% tax bracket off of the 4 or 5% that we're borrowing. It's a really good return on investment.
So your Kane Waters needs a Twitter, and your national dental practice has none. And I think the way these homies work is like, say they go to your website, you're an NDPR, they follow you.
Yeah.
Well, now that's one way they track the website.
Sure.
So now I want to go back to that website. I go to my Twitter page. I go to my followers. I'm following. You don't have any. So and then also I was wondering, you got a great YouTube video on that website, Ryan. If you guys want to, we could add that YouTube video.
The video that's out on YouTube right now is the Why You Must Own speech. I just put that out there. So I think if you Googled Charles Loretto, Why You Must Own on Google.
Hey, I'm Charles Loretto. National Dental Placements.
I know my homies because I'm a dentist.
Right.
I love it as much as them. I mean, I don't want to do a root canal on a straight front tooth. I mean, how fun is that? I mean, Stevie Wonder could do that one. Yeah. I want the root canal with a broken file. I want the impacted wisdom teeth. I love the blood and guts. My most fun is when someone's afraid to get their tooth extracted. So I just focus the whole time like, well, we're not going to extract it right now. I'm just going to try to get it, asleep. I'm just going to try to get it numb. And then I take my periodontalist and say, now you got 5 different types of nerves: hot, cold, movement, pressure, pain. You're not going to feel pain, but I got to make sure that you feel pressure, but not pain. This is just a check. And then I'm going around with the periosteal, loosen up. And then I just want to, you'll feel movement. I'm just checking the anesthetic. Then I elevate the whole thing out. And then I say, you know what, let's not even pull today. And they're like, really? Yeah. And then I hand them the extracted tooth, and they're just like, oh my God, he pulled the tooth. I didn't even know it. I love dentistry. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't know your math. You don't know your numbers. And every gosh darn CEO, every Fortune 500 company has a finance department. You don't have a finance department. These guys could be your finance department. Every Olympic athlete that ever got a gold medal had at least 3 coaches, and you don't have a coach. And you just always want to learn how to do more dental stuff. You think if you learn bone grafting and sleep apnea, the biggest joke about sleep apnea is you don't know how to make money on a root canal, cleaning, filling, exam, x-ray, and extraction. So you're going to solve your problems with sleep apnea and Invisalign and night. I mean, imagine a restaurant said to you, yeah, we lose money on hamburgers, fries, and Coke, so we thought we'd add pizzas and tacos and solve all of our problems. No, why don't you get your house in order on the hamburger, fries, and Coke? And just these guys can get your house in order. I've been a fan of Daryl Kane for 3 decades, for 30 years. You got 1,700 clients. I didn't know you were that big. I mean, I knew you were crushing it, but I didn't know you were crushing it. But, I mean, I know, I'd say 50 of my friends. I've been down to those meetings. I've had people tell me that they went in there on the verge of divorce. Yeah. And you got their house in order.
Yeah, I know you've lectured around the country, and I've had people call me that said, hey, Howard said to call, and man, I know that, like I said, that there's no money's going back and forth. We believe in what you do, and you believe in what we do, and
the only thing I request from you.
All right, what do you request? I'm in. I'm listening.
You only root for the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, I don't know I'm going to be able to root for that, but I will say it on air. I will root for the Arizona Cardinals.
Because nobody likes the Dallas Cowboys. They only like the Arizona Cardinals.
But everybody did hate Tony Romo. Now he's at least retired.
Oh, yeah. You know what I'm most interested about is the Oakland quarterback was crushing it.
Yeah.
And then right at the end broke his leg.
So sad.
I wonder, But hey, thanks for all you do for dentistry.
man. It's
Thanks for coming over to my house.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here at your home. I appreciate
And
the invitation.
I hope you list those practices on the Dentaltown website, and I hope we just get more information because they live in fear.
Yeah, they do.
They've already gone a third of the way down the street. And that's my final question. If my math is right. If they graduate 350, what is the average size of the practice the average person's buying?
Yeah, so we see it from all different ranges. I'd rather purchase something big and successful versus really small. I can make a case for the small, but you better be in a rural area and there better be zero marketing and a whole bunch of stuff being referred out. I really like patients, so I'm looking more at the active patient base than anything. But typically we'll see, somewhere around that $600,000-$700,000 price tag on about the $800,000 or $900,000 collection practice is kind of that nice middle ground.
So the middle ground is $650.
Yeah, price on approximately an $800,000-$900,000 a general dentistry practice. Obviously much different on some of the specialty practice. We could spend a whole session just on specialty practices on what they value.
So the bottom line is this is what's counterintuitive. You're a third of $1 million in debt. The fastest way to get out of debt is to go to $1 million in debt. And who do you think get out of debt faster? The person with $350,000 of student loans working at corporate dentistry the rest of their life, or the one who buys their own practice gets to $1 million in debt? So who will pay out more? The employee at $350 get to zero, or the person who goes all the way to $1 million buys a practice get to zero? Who gets to zero first?
Yeah. So it's in the game too is two things. Yes, the $1 million debt person has a greater probability of getting out of debt quicker, but it's not just that, Howard. It's really about who ends up with the most wealth. Because again, the 20, 30, 40-year career that you're going on, the measuring stick's at the end, not who's out of debt first. The measuring stick is who saved first, who built equity, who brought a partner in, who had more control, and the end, what's your net worth after 30 years or 40 years. And so our math is that the quicker you own, the quicker you start saving for retirement, the quicker you start managing taxes, the person who does that will always out.
And let me just finish on a story of 30 years. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not in Scottsdale. I'm not in Paradise Valley. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation. Probably at least every 5 years, I've had this conversation with a man, he's usually named Mario, where he wants me to go out afterwards in the parking lot and see his car. And it's usually going to be a lowrider. It's going to be a really nice car.
Okay.
And and it reminds me of someone working for corporate, and he's all excited about his car, and for you it'd be your house and your Beamer and all that stuff. And I always put my arm around him. I say, Mario, I know why you bought a lowrider. It's to impress Maria. But I can give you the names of my other patients who are your age from Guadalupe. They didn't buy a lowrider. They went and bought a truck, a Ford 150 and a trailer, and they bought a couple lawnmowers, a couple weed eaters, a couple of deals. And some of these guys, these house accounts are like $500 a month. Mm-hmm. And they'll do like 8 a day, 5 days a week. And then some of them, which are as old as me, now they own 10 rigs. Mm-hmm. And they're millionaires, and they live across the street from me in 5,000 square foot houses. And you would think that when you go into Guadalupe and you see this poverty, you would think, man, spending $30,000 on a purple lowrider, that's not a good use of cash. Mm-hmm. Well, you just bought a BMW, and you're an employee at corporate. You didn't need the BMW, and you don't need to be an employee. You need to go buy an F-150 and a trailer and buy a lawnmower and a weed eater and get a crew of a hygienist assistant, whatever. And before you know it, you'll be a millionaire.
Howard, only you could take the dental analogy to the lawnmower guy. You're amazing.
And I've done it. In fact, my kids have excuse me getting. I was going to get beat up one day because I'll stop. Sometimes we're driving, I'll stop because there'll be a crew having lunch under a lawn chair, and they all drink like a 2-liter Mountain Dew
right.
a couple of times a day. And I get out there with my business cards and I say, dude, you're not going to have any teeth.
Yeah.
You got to switch to bottled water. Here's my business card. And sometimes my boys say, someone's going to punch you. And
again,
they don't.
Only you could do that as well. I don't know any other individual. We may think these things, but you're the only person who's going to stop your car and get out.
And I'll just end on the first story. When I opened up my dental office, I was open every Saturday. I got I was in zip code 85044. Ahwatukee. It's Phoenix, but the locals here call it Ahwatukee.
Okay.
And every Saturday, I got that map, and every Saturday I got up with a backpack of toothbrushes and floss and all that stuff. I went door to door. It took me half a year to knock on every single door, and I was 24 years old. I said, my name's Howard Farran. You know where the Safeway Chase Bank Pizza Hut is? I'm right there. And I'm 24. I'm going to practice here till I'm 74. And on the weekends, I just thought I'd get out and meet the neighborhood. I'm going to be here for 50 years.
Wow.
And 2 out of 3 doors say, whatever, that's weird. A dentist coming to my door. And the third door would say, well, you know what? I wrote, and I'd be standing there with a flashlight with some man in his underwear at 8 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday morning talking about his tooth and everything. He says, well, I need to get in there. This is all before computers. I'd pull out my appointment book and say, well, I have openings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week till the end of time. What works best for you? And I would do that all day Saturday and Sunday until Monday through Friday. I had no openings. And every broken tooth, I just scheduled an hour and a half, and I'd tell you FMX, exam, bite wings, whatever. And a lot of them that I had to get back for, like the root canal, billet, and crown, I'd have to schedule them. They'd come back at like 7 o'clock that night, and then I'd do the root canal, billet, and crown to like 10 o'clock at night. And,
You're a workhorse.
Well, you just got to hustle.
Hustle.
Just
It's a hustle, man.
So thanks for hustling and coming all the way
Oh,
from
man, anytime.
Dallas to Phoenix to see
Thanks,
me.
brother.
All right,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.